Before we begin, pause, breathe, and recognize this is not just a video, this is a spiritual summons. Because if you're hearing this now, it means heaven has issued a response. You didn't imagine the betrayal, you didn't exaggerate the pain. What happened to you was real, and more than that, it was planned. But what they didn't expect, what they never saw coming, was this. You were chosen, and chosen ones don't stay broken, they rise. So right now, comment, "Heaven saw everything," and subscribe to the Chosen Signal, because this isn't revenge, this is divine reversal. And what you're about to hear is a message not of pain, but of power. Let's say it clearly. They knew what they were doing, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the silence when you needed them most, the smiles that hid venom, the praise in public and the poison in private. They didn't stumble into your pain, they walked in with intention. And when you cried, they called you dramatic. When you pulled away, they accused you of being cold. But heaven kept the record. Every whispered insult, every twisted narrative, every time they used your love as a leash, it was noted, documented, weighed. And now, the balance is shifting. They didn't just let you down. They watched you unravel and felt powerful. They fed off your confusion. They took your loyalty and turned it into a trap. You apologized for things you didn't do. You lowered your light to make them feel comfortable. You silenced your voice to keep peace with those who were never at peace with you. And still, they blamed you. But chosen one, your silence was never weakness. It was restraint. And the heavens were not ignoring you. They were storing everything for this exact moment. The moment justice begins. What they did wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual violence. They tried to break your spirit, to rewrite your identity. But God never stepped off the throne, and now the gavel has hit the table. Heaven has ruled in your favor, and what they thought they buried is resurrecting, not with vengeance, not with noise, but with glory. Because the best response to injustice is transformation. And your transformation is now the loudest judgment in the spirit. They thought they'd silence you, but God is about to make your name echo where they tried to erase it. You may not have seen it yet, but in the spirit, the return has already begun. What they sowed is now echoing back. Not because you wished them harm, you didn't. You begged for peace. You gave them chances. You cried on their behalf in rooms where they mocked your tears. But the law of heaven is unbreakable. What is sown with darkness returns in exposure. What is planted in manipulation returns as confusion. In their own camp, you don't have to lift a finger, because the one who saw the injustice is now speaking through events, through silence, through collapse. And they feel it, even if they don't speak it. What they didn't know was this: you were the test, sent into their lives as grace, as light, as a chance to shift, to love better, to treat something holy with honor. But instead, they used you as fuel. They saw your discernment as a threat, your love as a tool, your presence as disposable. But what they rejected was never just a person. They rejected a divine appointment. And when you walked away, the oil walked with you, the protection walked with you, and now the covering that was over their life through your presence is gone. You may not get a confession, you may not get closure, but chosen one, you'll get confirmation. You'll hear the silence, you'll feel the withdrawal, you'll notice how what once flourished begins to dry up, not because you cursed them, but because God withdrew what they disrespected. There is no harvest where dishonor reigns, and now everything that was propped up by lies will begin to shake. Not dramatically, but slowly, surely, spiritually. They will face the mirror, and the image staring back won't be you. It'll be the truth they tried to bury. They laughed not because it was funny, but because control gave them joy. Every time you second-guessed yourself, they felt validated. Every time you spiraled, they smiled in secret. But heaven saw it, and now Heaven is responding, because God is not mocked, and when his children are harmed for sport, he doesn't forget. You walked away in silence, but God is speaking now, and his voice doesn't tremble. His judgment doesn't delay. This is not new karma. This is kingdom, and in the kingdom justice is holy and precise. They thought you'd disappear. They thought you'd crumble. They assumed your silence meant defeat. But what they didn't realize was this: you were healing. You weren't giving up. You were gathering. You weren't lost. You were learning. They mistook your stillness for weakness, but stillness is where God rewrites stories. And now, as you begin to walk with your head higher, your steps lighter, your eyes sharper, they don't recognize you, because the version of you they abused no longer exists. And the one you've become, they aren't prepared to face. You gave them peace. You gave them access. You gave them covering, and they treated it like it was replaceable. But here's the truth. The gift you carried was never for their consumption. It was for their correction. You were sent into their life as a shift, and they misused it. They didn't just lose you. They lost what your presence protected. Because when a chosen one walks away, the atmosphere changes. What was once calm becomes chaos. What was once warm becomes cold. And they feel it deeply, even if they never admit it. They can't run from it now. The story they told is unraveling. The people they convinced are asking questions. The support system they built on deception is growing tired, because lies are heavy, and truth always returns to collect. Chosen one, the mirror they refuse to face, is now showing them what they really are. And the image is cracking, not from your revenge. You never lifted your hand, but from God's justice, quiet, holy, irreversible. Let them squirm, let them hide. They didn't fear your wrath, but now they're facing heaven's reflection. You don't need to tell your side. You don't need to explain. Your peace speaks for you now. Your healing is louder than your hurt. Your growth is louder than their gossip. Your light is the very proof that you weren't the villain. You were the vessel. They threw dirt on your name, but God watered it, and now you're blooming in places they never thought you'd rise from. Let them watch, not for revenge, but for revelation, because everything they tried to bury has become the evidence that favor was on you all along. They calculated every move, how to guilt you, how to confuse you, how to turn others against you without ever saying your name. It was deliberate, tactical, wicked, but what they forgot is that you're covered by grace, backed by heaven, and protected by a justice system that doesn't miss. God saw what no one defended. He heard what no one believed. He felt what no one validated. And now, he's not just bringing correction, he's restoring balance. They used strategy, but God answers with sovereignty. You don't need to expose them. You don't need to defend yourself. The shift is already happening, and they feel it. Not in your words, but in your absence. Not in your confrontation, but in your elevation. Not in your anger, but in your transformation. You were the calm in their chaos, the intercessor in their storm. And now that you're gone, the storm has no shield. They laughed while you prayed. They mocked while you covered them. But heaven heard the groans of your soul. And now it's answering, not with noise, but with divine silence that shakes everything. This is the part they never saw coming. They thought the rejection was your ending. They thought the shame would finish you. But seeds always look buried until they break the surface. You were not buried, you were planted. And now you're rising, not with bitterness, with brilliance, not with revenge, with revelation. You don't even want payback. You want purpose, and God is giving it to you in double portion. Every tear collected, every loss redeemed, every betrayal reversed. You're not broken anymore. You're blooming. This isn't just a healing story. This is a commissioning. You didn't survive just to say you made it. You survived because others need to see what survival looks like. You didn't heal just to feel peace. You healed because your presence will now disrupt lies and shift atmospheres. God trusted you with pain because He trusted you with the power to carry the lesson. And now, your scars are glowing. You're marked not by what they did, but by how God preserved you through it. You are not a victim of what they planned. You are the vessel of what heaven protected. They didn't just lose a person, they lost a covering. Your presence wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual infrastructure. You were shielding them from warfare they couldn't handle. You were absorbing tension, you were realigning energy. They thought they had peace because of themselves, but now that you're gone, the chaos is creeping back in. The silence in their lives is loud, the comfort has turned cold, and slowly they're realizing you were the pillar they destroyed with their own hands, and what's collapsing around them is not karma. It's the absence of what they dishonored. You're walking in a new direction now, and the beauty of elevation is this. You don't need to look back to prove anything. Let them watch from a distance. Let them sit in the silence they once forced you to endure. You have no need to confront them. Your glow does that for you. You have no need to explain. Your alignment makes it undeniable. They'll hear about you in rooms you no longer care to enter. And when they finally realize what they lost, you'll be too far into your destiny to feel the sting. Because healing is holy distance. This isn't just your comeback, it's your construction. Heaven is building around you now. New relationships, new access, new peace. Where they tried to shatter you, God is raising you like a temple. You are not just rising, you're being enthroned in your calling. And the very people who labeled you unstable will have to admit, you were never broken. You were being rebuilt, stronger, wiser, unshakable. Because what God is doing with you now doesn't need defense. It speaks through fruit, and your fruit is about to overflow. Every connection has a season, and theirs is over. They no longer have access to you, not because you hate them, but because you healed past the point of returning. This isn't rejection, it's protection for your anointing, your purpose, your sanity. Forgive them, bless them, but don't reopen what God has sealed. You are not called to return to what broke you. You are called to rise above it, because you are not what happened to you. You are what heaven preserved in the middle of it, and that makes you unstoppable. They mishandled you not because you were flawed, but because you carried something too weighty for their character. You weren't too much. You were too divine. And their rejection wasn't proof of your failure. It was evidence that your oil required higher altars. They couldn't hold the level of peace, power, and light you brought. So they mocked what they didn't understand. But you were never meant to shrink to fit their comfort. You were meant to expand into fullness. And now that expansion is happening. And those who once mocked your silence will witness your resonance. You don't need to punish them. You don't need to force them to understand. Let them sit with the space you once filled. Let them feel the echoes of the grace they violated. Their consequences are not your burden. Their confusion is not your fault. They sowed this, and the harvest has come. Now your only task is to stay aligned. Let God handle what your heart can't. Let justice unfold in the spiritual realm, because the same God who watched them crush you is now the God rebuilding you as a testimony. They won't be able to deny it. Your glow, your peace, your growth. They'll hear your name and go quiet, not because of revenge, but because of reality. The person they tried to discredit is now walking in divine favor. The voice they tried to silence now speaks with authority. The heart they tried to destroy is now healing others, and no matter how far they run, they'll remember, not your pain, not your begging, but your resurrection, because nothing speaks louder than a chosen one healed. This isn't the end of your healing, it's the activation of your anointing. You're stepping into clarity, into alignment, into restoration. Everything the enemy thought he stole is being returned in a different form, higher, stronger, sealed in fire. You are not who you were, and The people who left you in pieces won't recognize the masterpiece you've become, because God didn't just put you back together, He redefined you. And the new you doesn't chase, explain, or beg. You carry, walk, and shine. If this message stirred something in you, comment now. Heaven saw everything. Let that be your declaration, your seal in the Spirit. Subscribe to The Chosen Signal for more prophetic confirmations, and share this with someone who's still walking through injustice. Let them know it wasn't a mistake, it was an awakening, and the people who planned your pain are now witnessing your rise. Because when heaven responds, no lie stands, no darkness lasts, and no weapon wins.